Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Talk with a Doc. My name is Janvi, and throughout this series I will be talking to doctors of different specialities and those at different stages of their medical journeys to learn more about the variety of opportunities within medicine. In today's episode of Talk with a Doc, I am going to be talking to Dr Komal Ray, an anaesthetist working in St James's University Hospital.
It's great to meet you and talk to you, so thank you so much for giving up some time to talk to me today.
You too, thank you.
Thank you. So to begin with, what is your job as an anaesthetist? Sorry, I'm going to have to say this again. It's really hard
You're
to
not
say.
the first one and you're not the last one, don't worry. So I'm an anaesthetist, and what people are a little bit less aware of this specialty, what it basically entails is that before you have any operation, so you either need to go off to sleep, or you need to have the part where you're having an operation to be put to sleep or like numbed. And so that the surgeon can attack you with a knife, as scary as it sounds. So we make it a little bit better experience for the patient without them having to experience any pain, any suffering, and hopefully sail through small, big operations and sometimes even life-saving kind of procedures as well. So that's what it entails. And anesthetists are also involved. Like, we have a diversity in which areas we work, not only in the surgical specialties, but you must have heard something called intensive care as well.
Yeah.
So that is manned by anaesthetists as well. So that's in kind of nutshell what we really do.
Sounds very interesting. I was actually wondering, how does the anaesthetist's role link with other departments of the hospital? Because, as you said, ICU and surgery, are there other departments? And given any typical working day, would you have to be placed in only one department? Or are you given a rota as to which department you're needed in on which day?
Oh yes, so so we do a lot of variety of things. Okay, so we can be involved in. I'll talk about my job first of all. So I am a liver HPB. It's called hepatobiliary, and a liver transplant anaesthetist. Okay, so what happens is that when somebody's liver fails, they at some point would need something like a liver transplant, because once your liver fails, without a new liver, pretty much over the next few years, patients will die. So they get assessed for liver transplants. And what happens, so it's like a multi-speciality team workup. So what we have a fantastic multidisciplinary team, which involves the hepatologists, who are a liver medical specialist. Then we have liver surgeons. Then we have a liver anesthetist. And then we have a specialist team of psychologists, dietitian, pharmacist, physiotherapist, we all work together firstly to check whether the patient is actually fit to have a transplant. And if they have a transplant, will they actually survive this big operation? And if they survive the big operation, what kind of comes afterwards? Can we get them back to like a normal lifestyle and to be able to enjoy, which everybody else is doing at the minute? So it's like, having to deal with a medical team, surgical team, intensive care, and a big team of non-medical staff as well. So it's quite interesting to see how patients come very, very unwell, pretty much striving for life, but how they get better and get back to normalcy and enjoy life with their family and friends. So I find it quite a fulfilling experience, to be honest.
That sounds great. It sounds like you work with a big multidisciplinary team. So you said that you work specifically with the, looking at like things related to the liver. So you have the opportunity to sub-specialize. So what made you choose, say, working with, sort of the liver department, as it were?
Yeah. So I actually, I'm a very unrested soul, and I like to keep myself busy, and I like to experiment with different things as well. So when you must have heard of training of doctors up in this country. And so when you do a junior level, then you do a senior level training. So senior level basically comprises of being a registrar, which for anesthesia is approximately 5 years.
Okay.
So after the first two, I had done my exam pretty much in my junior level. So I wanted to kind of spread my wings and learn a bit more. So I did fellowship in obstetrics, which is involving kind of care for women who are carrying a baby and would deliver at some point. And then I did a fellowship in regional anesthesia, so people who have injury to upper or lower limb. So when they come for operation, we just, instead of getting a general anesthesia, we used to give them a regional anesthesia. That means just put their arm to sleep and the surgeon can operate. So I did a year of that, which was quite interesting. I loved both of them. And then I decided that I want to dirty my hands a bit more. So I went into liver. So liver is basically, as I mentioned, they're very, very sick patients, and the operation is very long. We are looking at almost 6 to 8 hours. And they're very complex. They become quite unstable. There's a lot of blood loss. So I've kind of started to feel that this challenge is what I want to see. This is what I want to do. I don't like an easy life. I want to do something which stimulates me. And that's pretty much. So I pretty much fell in love when I did the fellowship. So, and that's how I carried on. So I still do quite a lot of regional anesthesia as well. But this is something I'm like a bit more passionate about, I suppose.
Right. Okay. So once you became an anaesthetist, then you realized that these are other sort of
no, when I was in my training, I did a lot of other like sub-spec training.
Oh, I see.
And in that, the one thing I really liked was liver. So I decided that this is what I want to do, when I become a consultant. So I got myself ready for it, basically.
All right. But what drew you to becoming an anaesthetist first? So obviously, I'm sure you must have had opportunities to specialize in, or not specialize, but have an opportunity to learn in different departments. So what drew you to becoming an anaesthetist over any other type of doctor, say, for example?
So my exposure to something else, is it? So during my internship, I had exposure to general medicine, general surgery, and obstetrics and gynecology. And so I think when you're training, the most important thing is to rule out what you definitely do not enjoy and do not want to do. So I think I started from the end by picking out things which I was very certain you don't want to do. I think when you're training, it's very, very hard at a junior level, because most of the trainees would pretty much like all specialities, and you get excited about medicine, to doing a first operation, doing appendix, or doing some sort of diagnosing a strange or rare syndrome, or delivering the first baby. And it seems really nice, but over the spread of a year, you will realize, looking into future for 5 or 10 years forward, whether you want to do that for good or not. And I think when you come to work, you want to be in kind of a place where you don't look at the time, and that, the day is over. Yes, now I've done all the jobs I need to. And that is, for me, that is what my profession is. When I come to work, I don't want to see the time. I just want to enjoy what I'm doing. And when it's time for home, it is time for home. So that's how I work. So I picked out things I didn't want to do, and then finally ended up choosing anesthetics, and then finally livers.
Right.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So it was a process of elimination which narrowed down your interests.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that it's not uncommon. I don't know what experience you've had talking to other doctors, but it is one thing I would definitely recommend people that in your kind of junior training years, spread your wings and try and talk to doctors from other specialities, have a little flavor of what you're going to get exposed to, and just see what actually excites you, what stimulates you, and where you enjoy working as well. So it's about not just doing a job or coming to work, but it's about just making a team and having fun, actually. I think that's how I would like to put it, I really enjoy my day, to be honest, even if it's busy, crazy. But,
that sounds good.
Yeah.
That's actually why I started this sort of thing where I'm trying to talk to doctors of different specialities to really learn what interests them and why they pursued a career in medicine, and then further which specialty they went into and why. So it's really good to hear you love your job. And, I'm glad that you really enjoy just getting into your work and not thinking about, home and when you can leave work, for example. But how is the work-life balance like being an anaesthetist? Is it a good work-life balance? Is it very busy?
So you have to, so we can broadly classify medical specialities into like firstly clinical and non-clinical. Okay, so when I say
Right.
clinical, it would mean like doing medicine, surgery, clinics, or
Mhm.
wards or theaters and all. Okay, and then you specify into non-clinical. Non-clinical would be more or less like lab-based job, which will be in
Okay.
the form of pathology and microbiology.
Mhm.
So they are now divided into two. So, and when you come to clinical specialties, they can be divided into like acute specialty,
Right.
where you're looking at, you need to intervene pretty much very quickly,
Okay.
or patients can deteriorate and become very unwell. So you need to act fast.
Mhm.
Something like general medicine. So you can't say, I'm going to come and see the patient tomorrow. You
Right.
have to act right then. Okay. And something like obstetrics, you can't say, okay, you will have the cesarean section tomorrow. You need to come now.
Yeah.
And similarly, anesthetic. So if you need an operation, you need an anaesthetist now. So
Mhm.
there isn't a bypass, you know. So for me, I was, and then you have specialties which are not acute, and which will be like something like, like skin
Mhm.
and dermatology, to a large extent other specialties as well. So I knew one thing, that I'd like A, hospital based, B, clinical based, and C, acute. It's just something I like about it. I just come to a day which I do not know. I'm just going to act as I see.
Mhm. Right.
So a lot of people do not like it. I mean, I'm sure you'll come across a spectrum of people who don't like the uncertainty or not knowing what you're going to deal with.
Mhm.
But I prefer it that way, you know. So, and to act. So if you do not, for something like a surgeon, so when they are going to do an operation, when they open up the belly, they do not know what they're going to find. Yes, they know they're going to go for, let's say, bowel resection, but they do not know, maybe the mass in there is bigger, or it's attached to a vessel and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like what gives you a kick. For me, you know, I get a kick by not knowing, having challenges, the patient becomes unwell, and I'm, you know, trying to do a lot of things to make them better and tolerate the procedure. So
Mhm.
I think I like that clinical touch and like acuteness of the specialty. So that's my thing, I think.
That's great. But in terms of the fact that, do you have, so for example, the hours you work, do you still have, can you still easily arrange holidays, and can you easily arrange time off? Or is it still quite, because of course you're, as you said, it's so unpredictable what you do, and your role is so essential. Is it easy to do that?
So, yeah, but it is, yes. So when you're training, it seems quite kind, like you're on a go. So
Mhm.
you would know, my husband is a surgeon as well. So having two people in acute specialty is a bit of a life mess. And when you're going to have children with no family around, it is tricky. Okay, so you feel that you're on a roller coaster all the time. You have to be on the move to get your life going to a certain kind of expected levels, and at the same time that you will have to do the school runs, you will have to sit down with homework for the kids, and so yes, it did feel onerous at times, but I think it is manageable. I don't think it's not a invincible kind of a situation. So yes, I did feel sometimes, if my family was around, I would have felt kind of bit more relaxed, should I put it
Yeah.
that way.
Mhm.
But because I didn't want to slow down my training, so there is an option to become flexible and
Okay.
do like 2 or 3 days a week. But that's an
Okay.
excellent option. I would say that if you starting a family or considering it, it is definitely an option to consider, and it's pretty viable. You know, you might be a little bit slow in training, but you'll get there, and you can cope with your family life as well. So, but I wasn't too keen to pick that option up, and but yes, it did feel quite onerous at the time, but. I'm glad it's passed. And as you become a consultant, you do have defined hours of working. Yes, so some days we will have theater overruns, and of course, when you're on call, that's unpredictable. You will have to bear with that. But on call, we know the days, so we can arrange, our availability, etc. So, by any means, I think it's perfectly doable, and it allows me to have my holidays, allows me to go meet my friends, family, and as we are of course from overseas. I've not, of course, I miss my family and my country, but I've never feel that I'm unable to visit them when I want it. Of course, it can't be that regular. I appreciate,
Right.
we can't do so many annual leave and holidays, but you don't feel completely deprived, or you don't feel left out or anything like that. So I'm comfortable to say that, yeah, you can achieve a work-life balance. Yeah. and you can cut your hours if you enjoy some other activity. So I think that possibility is definitely available, and I would encourage any wonderful young women to delve into this career. Absolutely, without a doubt, with confidence, go for it if you want to do medicine.
That's great. I mean, of course, because your husband's also a surgeon, so both of you have really difficult hours. So it must be hard to balance that. But the fact that you're able to do that definitely gives confidence in other people who want to be able to have like the best of both worlds. That it is definitely a possibility. And because you said you also have a training pathway where you can take a bit of a break. So it seems like a very achievable thing once you've gotten into medicine.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. It is achievable. There are ways to work around it. So I think nobody should feel stressed that, oh, it's long career and all these things.
Okay.
It's absolutely doable, and I think people would be satisfied with what they do as well. So there will be no regrets in future. So pick it up without kind of
hesitation.
That's the word, yeah.
Great. You've talked about the idea of unpredictability within your job, and of course, that sounds really interesting to you, but it can also be very challenging, I can imagine. But what other challenges have you faced as an anaesthetist? Have you ever had like the fear, for example? This is what I'd always think if I was in your shoes, that what if I haven't done my job correctly and the patient wakes up halfway through surgery? Have you ever had that thought ever crossed your mind?
Yeah. So that is, I understand. So my agenda when I start a day is that I'm very emotional about my patients, and I want to treat them the way I wanted to be treated. And I think most of the doctors have a similar kind of feeling when they get started, and everybody wants to do their best. So that's the whole idea about getting trained, getting experience, etc. So we do our best. There would be good and bad days, okay, and there would be kind of problems at both ends. There would be sometimes things are beyond control, and they would be otherwise the patient is not responding to treatment as well. So yes, we do feel helpless sometimes, but I think the idea is to keep calm, be available, and do your best, okay. So and take it as it comes. And the most important thing is that yes, if the day has not been good, never mind. We need to stand up again. We need to reflect back and see what went well. Let's start with that. Let's start with a bit of positivity. What went well, and what could have gone better. And is there something which I did not do right? Let's go back and dig it up and find out. So I think that comes through a kind of a reflection process, which is a kind of integral part of our appraisal and kind of revalidation, which you might be familiar to these terminologies.
Yes.
So none of us is perfect, okay, and it's not just about medicine, it's about other things, okay. So and we get do something called a feedback from the patients, from colleagues. So the patients will tell us that, oh, I wanted to like something like, it would have been nice if the doctor spoke slowly. So you can imagine that for us, it's a day-to-day routine, the way we explain the risks and all, but for that patient, it would be something very significant. So maybe they wanted us to slow down. So I think we need to listen to our patients and kind of respond to what they want as well. And that's the best way to improve yourself, okay? So nobody's going to be perfect. And I cannot imagine anybody saying that I'm the perfect surgeon, perfect anaesthetist. Yes, I've learned through, I've made mistakes, and I'm happy to accept them, and I'm happy to move forward. And so that, at the end of the day, my patient tells, yes, I feel okay today, or, oh yeah, I'm enjoying my cup of tea and it's been a good experience. And I think that just is pretty life-changing kind of a word to hear.
That's great. I mean, you talked a lot about job satisfaction, and also about being able to reflect and take on board both the good and the bad. And so it shows that clearly, you do have that opportunity to reflect on your work. But specifically as an anaesthetist, of course, you're working there and you're working in a very high pressure situation. But then, do you have that job as an anaesthetist to then check up on the patients after the surgery or after the injections or whatever?
Yeah. So for any most of my cases are major operations, so I generally follow them up for the first 48 hours. So for my transplant, I follow them up for 48 hours. And if there's been concern, then perhaps longer. And for something like a minor procedures, I generally see at the end of the operation, make sure they're comfortable and nothing additional is required than what I expected. And that's about it, because they will be gone home by that same evening. And if during the operation, of course, if they became more unwell or unstable, then I keep the contact longer, for example, today, this patient I had, he had a big kind of problems with his bile duct, and he had a 6-hour operation. But this gentleman was quite unwell, and he's been unwell for last 6 weeks. The decision surgery was made on pretty much on Monday, but he was not unfit, so we were working on him for last 2 days. And so I was quite worried about him that he might become more unwell. So I spoke to his wife and his son as well beforehand. I introduced myself so that things are not a surprise if it doesn't work out to my expectations. And they were quite pleased about it, and they thank you back that to keep in touch and giving them all the information they require. More so in COVID times, it is quite scary that these patients are all alone in the hospital without their family or loved ones around them, and I think it's quite pathetic for anybody to undergo such kind of experience. So whatever we can do from our end, I think it goes a long way for them as well. So I think a little bit of sympathy and just putting yourself in the same shoes, that helps personally. But we all have a different approach to various situations, so there is never a right and a perfectly wrong technique, I suppose.
Of course. You mentioned COVID, and obviously, it must have been a very, very different atmosphere in the hospital. And I'm guessing there were probably less surgeries as well. Did you see a sort of decrease in cases? Because obviously you work primarily with surgeons in those major surgeries. So did you perhaps see a decrease in cases as less people were coming in, or did it not particularly impact your side of medicine?
So I won't talk about all kind of operation, but I'll just talk about my work basically involves all acute kind of work and liver cancer. So I've not felt the hit, so all my lists carried on the way they have, because I think you might be aware that most of the cancer surgeries carried on.
They carry on.
Yes, they had reduced a little bit, but not to a complete full stop. So the surgeries which stopped were something like routine cases like a hernia repair or gallbladder surgery, which can wait while, something like a cancer patient, of course, cannot wait because the cancer will spread and all these things. So, for me, most of my, kind of surgical specialties carried on. So, which I'm quite pleased about, because it's been great that we are able to do work and get things kind of cleared up for patients. So I think that was pretty reasonable. But again, yes, now all the ends of the hospital are now very, very busy. And I think there's going to be a huge waiting list as well. But we'll get there. Let's start on an optimistic note and keep moving and do whatever we can every single day. And it's going to lead us in the positive direction. That's my opinion.
That's great. After talking to you, I've definitely felt very optimistic about this sort of pathway into medicine, because it sounds like it's a really reasonable line to take in terms of managing family life with work life, and also the opportunities. It's not just become an anaesthetist, put in an injection, wait for surgery, that's it, job done. There's so much other opportunities, and as you've shown yourself, there's so many specialities as well. So it definitely sounds like a really interesting career line. So thank you so much for talking to me today, Dr. Ray. It was really great.
Very nice to talk to you as well, and pleasure. Great. Go for medicine. I promise you will always be pleased with your decision.
Great. Thank you so much.